Hello everyone, and welcome to the Choropleth Maps Exercises lecture. In this lecture, we're going to briefly go over the notebook for the Choropleth Maps exercise. Let's go ahead and jump to that Jupyter notebook now. Alright, here we are at the Choropleth Maps exercise notebook. In this exercise, we're going to give you some rather simple data sets and ask you to create Choropleth maps from them using the Plotly library. Now, unfortunately, due to the nature of Plotly and the fact that they're HTML files, you can't actually see the example display output here. Essentially, it's just going to look like a blank output for both the global map on the world scale and also the USA Choropleth map. There's just going to be essentially blank outputs, so you can't actually compare unless you run the solutions notebook what it should look like. But the datasets themselves are relatively simple enough that you should have an idea of what you want to output. Your imports are already set up for you as far as your Plotly imports. You're going to go ahead and then import pandas and read the CSV file. Your first one's going to be 2014 world power consumption. Then you're going to go ahead and check the head of the data frame. It should look like this. And then using the lecture notes and using the documentation, what you're going to go ahead and do is create a Choropleth plot of the power consumption for countries using a data and layout dictionary. And then you should be able to essentially run these two lines of code like we did in the lectures. And basically, the only thing you have to do is set up data and layout correctly. Now that's the hardest part, and as we've said before, the syntax is pretty strange, so I don't expect you to be able to do this off the top of your head at all. What you should be doing is referencing the documentation and the lecture, and then filling in the blanks to actually map this data to a Choropleth map of the world's power consumption. Then once you're done with that, you're going to go ahead and import some election data from 2012 as a CSV file using pandas. You'll go ahead and check the head of the data frame. It'll look like this. It has a little bit more information, but what you're going to go ahead and do is create a plot that displays the voting age population, or VAP per state. And if you kind of scroll over to the right here, here it is, voting age population, VAP. Note that this is a float, so it's already been converted from a string. So these other columns are actually strings, but this one's already been converted to a float for you, so it should work fine. And it actually mentions this here. If you later want to play around with the other columns, make sure you consider their data type. And VAP has already been transformed for you. You're going to go ahead and just set up data and layout dictionaries and then hopefully run this line and be able to plot this. Again, this is more of an exercise of you being able to take what you already know and documentation and references that you've already seen and fill in your data to that sort of documentation and formatting. This is not an exercise in having everything memorized and being able to create a data and layout dictionary from scratch. Really, that's just unrealistic, and you'll have to usually reference the documentation for these sort of plots. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the exercise. It should be pretty straightforward, and remember to just reference the lecture notebooks, and if you ever get stuck, you can also reference the solutions lecture coming up next. Thanks everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.